Hi, this is Dr. Nick. I'm the Incrementalist here with incremental insights for a better business and better health.
And I'm Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health, helping companies reopen and operate during this current COVID pandemic.
So 25 weeks in, believe it or not, this is our 25th episode, Fred. So we've been doing this a while and lots more information emerging, but you came across an article that talks about this long, thin transmission of COVID-19, which really sort of changes things a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
It sure does. And first, Nick, congratulations. And it's been fantastic working with you these past 25 weeks, putting these up. Been very interesting stuff. So I found this article in a preprint. It's called Long, Thin Transmission Chains of Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus May Go Undetected for Several Weeks at Low to Moderate Reproductive Numbers, Implications for Containment and Elimination Strategy. And we'll have the link up for you. But essentially what these long, thin chains are is you typically consider, a outbreak and it spreads out rapidly and somebody pops up who's symptomatic, and you then contact trace them the last 48 hours and put them all into some sort of a quarantine to watch them and isolate the individuals who are infected. But these long, thin chains are people who are asymptomatic, younger folks, and it's not a rapid cluster outbreak. It just kind of goes from person to person to person. And if it runs through a number of asymptomatic folks, we may not be able to detect it, which creates really fascinating issues as we look at our contact tracing approaches, as we look at how do we catch these, how do we solve this problem, because it may be a month or more before somebody shows up as symptomatic, and by that point, it's way too late to be contact tracing. So in essence, what they're saying is we need to really look at a longer period strategy to before we decide to reopen up, before we say we've really got things in place, and make sure we've got strong mask wearing, hand washing, et cetera. So it raises some interesting issues. And I know one of the things you wanted to comment on in this area is that whole idea of how testing and rapid testing could potentially fit in this.
Yeah, so I think, some important elements to that is the need to get on top of any kind of outbreak as quickly as possible. I'm not sure exactly why, but this holiday weekend, I decided to watch Outbreak again. I think it was because my wife hadn't seen it and I felt she needed to see it at this point. It was a good movie to watch. It sort of covered things, and bear in mind, that was from the 1990s. So, it was the rapid move. You could see the sort of urgency. And to be fair, that's Hollywood, but that's true in this particular pandemic as well. There is no more urgent activity than contact tracing. Contact tracing is not 9 to 5. It is 24/7, 365. And the instant that you get it, you need to be on top of it, tracing it down for all the reasons that we know. But there's a little bit of concern around this if you've got these long tails and, asymptomatics that are spreading that we don't have. How do we find them? Well, we find them by testing everybody all of the time. And I think we're going to see the emergence of some of these testing capabilities that allow us to do the, dipstick right on site, low cost, no need for a laboratory, which is a key requirement. And importantly, really simple to do so that anybody could do it. The best analogy I have is it's a bit like a pregnancy strip. Even the men probably know how to do that. And, you got to question why, but hopefully they do anyway.
Absolutely. So the other interesting thing they talk about with this is this need to ensure that all of our mitigation strategies are really going on. That's the key to it. And I know your wife had some experiences in Baltimore this past week or something that made you feel pretty good about some stuff.
Yeah, so I have to say, Baltimore has certainly got its challenges like many other cities. She was there doing a food run, and there was just this, I can only describe it as mind-blowing experience where in some pretty down and out areas with homeless people, you've got panhandlers trying to wash your windscreen, all of those things. She said she saw not a single person was not wearing a mask. They were all wearing a mask, even the homeless people, folks. The individuals on the side of the road trying to beg, you name it. she could not point to a single example of anybody not wearing a mask. And she said if she hadn't been wearing a mask, she would have felt uncomfortable. That sort of social pressure that I think helps everybody. Imagine that from that sort of experience. I mean, I have to say, you know, go Baltimore is my response to that. But I know you had almost the opposite experience, and we are still in the same continental United States, right? You do live in the US.
Yes, I do. And I think it's not maybe a couple 100 miles, 700 miles to Baltimore. It's not like it's across the continent here or across the ocean. So I went into a racetrack yesterday morning at 6:30 in the morning to get my wife something to drink as we were heading out on for a boat ride. And unbelievably, I walk into the store and not a single customer, a single one has a mask on. 20 plus people in that store, none wearing a mask. And of the folks working the store, every single one of them was either wearing it below their nose or it was on their chin or they didn't have it on. So it just blew my mind. It's like an alternate universe from Baltimore, obviously. And I just don't get it. Some of it obviously is some cultural issues. There was a large group of day workers, et cetera, in there, but you're talking about homeless people wearing masks up in Baltimore and the others. Obviously, they've created the right cultural environment for that. And we have not yet here created the correct cultural environment for us to follow through with some of these mitigation strategies. Just fascinating.
So incremental step. If everybody starts wearing a mask, maybe we can influence others positively. Now, I know there's been some negative reactions, but quite frankly, you'll find me wearing my mask all of the time. I'm not here because I'm inside, I'm on my own. But when I'm outside, I wear the mask in all instances unless there's nobody around. By the way, I don't wear it when I'm driving. I see a few people doing that. I'm just going to say, you don't need to in your car. And it's a little bit difficult sometimes to see with this mask. So you can take it off in the car, but everywhere else, please, please wear a mask.
Well, this is Florida. So yesterday as I was driving, I saw somebody driving with a face shield on. So we've obviously got a few things we can do to help educate people. But honestly, about this whole cultural issue, I felt uncomfortable walking into that store. They were looking at me like I was out of my mind.
Yeah, the pressure was the other way around.
Exactly.
As if, you know, you felt like you couldn't wear it because of the, we have to change this culture. We have to get over this, you know, invasion of, I don't know, civil rights and whatever. I mean, again, I'll go back to my same example. It's not an invasion of your civil rights that you can't go 120 miles an hour on the highway. There's a speed limit for safety and people comply with it. And if you don't, you'll be stopped and ticketed.
Absolutely. And one announcement before we finish up, our coursework is now available at the Validation Institute. And you can take that and become OpenSafe certified by the Validation Institute. So I'm sure we'll have another link down below to that course that Nick and I have worked on for months now. So check it out if you get a chance. And with that, congratulations again on 25 weeks, Nick. It's been fantastic working with you. This is Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health. Thanks for listening. We're helping you here reopen and continue operating during the COVID pandemic.
And this is Nick Van ter Hayden. I'm the Incrementalist here with incremental insights for a better business, better health.